Did you ever, Jaden, did you feel the pressures?
Yeah, I did. Once I went out into the world and I saw what people, how people feel about my parents, I didn't understand, I'm still understand more and more every day.
We made a very, very, very terrible mistake with our children, and we went with radical honesty. So don't do it. No, man, listen, it's terrible because they do whatever they want and they just come tell you.
For years, Will Smith had the cleanest image in Hollywood. He was seen as the ultimate good guy, the one star who could do no wrong. He even bragged about how he raised his kids differently, like he had cracked some secret code to perfect parenting. But as Jaden Smith started growing up, that polished image began to crack right in front of everyone's eyes. This isn't about blaming Jaden. Nah, it's about what his life has revealed over time. Bit by bit, Jaden's choices and words started pulling back the curtain, exposing sides of Will Smith that the public was never supposed to see. For years, Will Smith carried one of the cleanest reputations in all of Hollywood. People might have skipped a few of his movies, but they still respected him as the guy who kept his hands clean and stayed away from real drama. That's why the lawsuit filed by Brian Scott Joseph shook everyone up. This wasn't some wild internet rumor flying around for clicks. It came with receipts, timelines, details, and claims that made the public stop and read every line. Brian Scott Joseph isn't just anybody. He's a professional violinist and a former America's Got Talent contestant. According to his lawsuit, he got hired to work with Will on a tour project that seemed legit at first. But then, Joseph claims the vibe started changing. He says Will began using emotional language that felt way too personal, like the lines between work and something deeper were getting blurry. Joseph describes feeling pressure to stay close, stay quiet, and not ask questions about what was really going on. His lawsuit paints a picture that's hard to ignore, one where power and access mixed in ways that made things feel off. Whether people buy the story or not, the wording itself hits heavy. It makes you wonder what was really happening behind closed doors.
How were you so able to create your own lane as opposed to just being the son of?
That's something that I tried to do from the very beginning, and it's something that my parents were aware of, and they made us aware of it before, we even found out from other people that there was this expectation on us. They said, hey, people out there in the outside world, they're gonna, say this, and they're gonna say that, you have to live up to our expectations of what we've done and what we've accomplished in our life, and you have to live with that. So we kind of knew that when we were young. And
this wasn't brushed off as some mix-up. It was described as something that felt intentional. Things got even darker with what Joseph claims happened next. According to him, while staying at a hotel during the tour, someone entered his room without permission. When he came back, there was a handwritten note waiting for him, and what it said made the whole situation feel eerie. The message hinted that someone planned to come back to hang around with him, but Joseph says he didn't take that as some chill invite. He says it felt like a warning, not a friendly gesture at all. And that's the detail that had people so uneasy. Not just the note itself, but everything surrounding it. The fact that someone supposedly entered his private space made the whole story sound way more serious. According to the lawsuit, when Joseph tried to raise his concerns, management brushed him off. He says they made him feel like the problem, and not long after, he was suddenly fired from the tour. Will Smith's legal team came out strong, denying every single accusation and calling the claims false and reckless. But even with those denials, it turned into a tense standoff. One man's word against one of Hollywood's biggest names, and that alone was enough to set the whole industry buzzing.
2010 to 2012, I had achieved everything that I had ever dreamed. I was beyond the wildest dreams. I've been blessed beyond anything I can imagine. But nobody in my family was.
Once that lawsuit hit the public, old voices started coming back fast. People who'd been talking for years suddenly had everyone's attention again. One of the loudest voices was Jaguar Wright, someone known for dropping explosive claims about powerful names in the industry. Jaguar had already been calling out several big figures, and Will Smith was one of them. She alleged that his so-called mentorship program wasn't always what it seemed, claiming it might have been used to cover up inappropriate relationships with other men. What made her statements even more shocking was that she didn't stop at adults. She brought up Jaden Smith too, suggesting there was emotional damage that went way beyond what fans ever saw on camera. At first, people brushed her off. No proof, no solid evidence, just gossip, right? But once that lawsuit surfaced, suddenly folks started connecting dots and asking if there was more to her story. Then came another bombshell. Brother Bilal, a longtime friend of Will Smith, spoke up. He claimed that years ago, he walked into a room and saw Will in a very compromising situation with another actor. On top of that, he also mentioned that something serious went down involving Jaden, and that's what supposedly made him leave the family home earlier than expected.
What is your worst nightmare?
My worst nightmare. I don't have nightmares.
I'd probably say his worst nightmare.
No. She was asking individually. Your worst nightmare and my worst nightmare. Not, you don't get to tell people my worst nightmare. How could you know, Jaden?
After all these stories came out, people started digging through old videos and interviews, and suddenly everything looked different. Clips that once seemed harmless started raising eyebrows everywhere. There are several interviews where Will Smith kisses Jaden on the lips, and back then, most people saw it as just a super affectionate dad moment. But now, those same clips are being watched with a whole new lens. Some viewers point out Jaden's body language, how he sometimes looks tense or uncomfortable, how his smile seems forced, and how his reactions come a few seconds too late, like he's not sure what to do next. That uneasy energy people once ignored suddenly feels way heavier now. With everything that's come out, those moments don't look like sweet family affection anymore. They look like something Jaden might not have been okay with, and fans can't stop rewatching and analyzing every second of it. It wasn't just one clip, it was several, popping up from different years and interviews, each one adding more fuel to the growing discussion. Fans started asking tough questions. Were those moments really about love and affection, or were they about control and how Will wanted their relationship to look in public? What makes it hit even harder is that these weren't private family moments. They happened right in front of cameras. Jaden didn't get a say in how those moments were shown to the world. Once something like that hits the internet, it's out there forever, shaping how people see you long before you even know who you really are. For a kid growing up under that spotlight, it can totally mess with their sense of boundaries and what normal even means. When your discomfort becomes a punchline, you learn fast that your feelings don't matter as much as the image others want to protect. And that kind of thing doesn't just disappear, it sticks with you. So by the time Jaden hit his late teens, the world had already labeled him as different. His style, his interviews, his music, they all carried this energy like he was trying to take back control, to rewrite how people saw him after years of being shaped by someone else's narrative.
All right, sit down. Stand up.
Okay, I'm really confused by the direction.
I'm the director. Do what I say.
Okay.
Wait, who did his wardrobe?
My pants used to be together.
This is important for
I
Jaden.
feel like this is more of a striped shirt thing.
Did somebody bring some clothes for Jaden?
But the moment that really locked in Jaden's different image came from how he talked about his relationship with Tyler, the Creator. For some fans, it was a bold and honest move, a young star just owning who he was. But for others, it sparked a wave of discomfort, not because of who he mentioned, but because of how public and one-sided it all felt. The conversation quickly shifted. It stopped being about who Jaden liked and turned into why he felt the need to say it that way. That question hit hard during Camp Flognaw in 2018, when Jaden grabbed the mic mid-performance with thousands of people screaming around him and shouted that Tyler, the Creator, is my boyfriend. The crowd went wild, but the shock didn't fade afterward. From that point on, Jaden's public image started to change completely. What once looked like pure self-expression started feeling like a shield, like he wasn't just exploring himself anymore, but protecting himself from a world that had already decided who he was supposed to be. By staying unpredictable, Jaden made sure no one could box him in. But to really get why he needed that kind of edge, you gotta rewind to the moment things started breaking between him and his father. Back in 2013, Will Smith released After Earth, and this wasn't just another sci-fi flick, it was his passion project from start to finish. Will shaped it as a passing of the torch moment, a chance to hand the spotlight straight to Jaden. He talked openly about wanting to set his son up for long-term success, calling it a major step in Jaden's career. On paper, it sounded like a dream, but in reality, Jaden was only 14 years old. That part gets forgotten way too often, especially when you remember the movie cost over $100 million and was pushed worldwide. That's an insane level of pressure for a kid still figuring out who he is. It wasn't just about acting, it was about living up to his father's legacy, proving he could carry that Smith name to new heights. But when After Earth finally hit theaters, everything crumbled. The movie tanked, critics tore it apart, and suddenly all that passing of the torch energy turned into public embarrassment for both of them. The movie After Earth wasn't just called bad, it was called straight up embarrassing. And Jaden didn't dodge that criticism, he took the full hit. For a kid who grew up being told he was special, that public backlash was a total shock. Not long after the movie dropped, Jaden made a move that stunned everyone. He asked to be legally emancipated from his parents. He wanted full independence. This wasn't some teenage meltdown. It was a serious, life-changing request. A 15-year-old basically saying, "I can't trust the people who are supposed to protect me." Even Will later admitted how much that moment crushed him. He said it shattered his heart. But the deepest story was about Jaden feeling misled, like he'd been thrown into a storm he never agreed to be part of. He felt like his father's career goals mattered more than his comfort or safety.
This is unlike him, right? So, all right, I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having anal with Will. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up, killing him. Murder, like murder. It was murder in there.
That's where everything broke down. The trust, the bond, the sense of guidance. Jaden stopped seeing his dad as someone who could keep him safe. Acting stopped feeling like opportunity. It felt like a setup, like every role came with strings attached. So he pulled away hard. He quit chasing Hollywood validation and built his own path, one that flipped expectations upside down. That was the start of Jaden rewriting who he was on his own terms. After all the chaos, Will and Jada Pinkett Smith doubled down on the same parenting style they'd been defending for years. They truly believed rules were restrictive and that punishment did more harm than good. Instead of discipline, they pushed conversation, letting their kids make their own choices and control their own lives from a young age. At first, that sounded deep, even progressive. A family raising free thinkers instead of rule followers. But in the real world, especially when fame and money erase normal limits, that kind of freedom can start to feel more like being lost with no one steering the ship. Even Will later admitted that his approach didn't work the way he imagined. He publicly said that the whole no punishment rule was a mistake. He realized too late that kids actually need boundaries, not because they're bad, but because they're still figuring out how life really works. Without those limits, everything starts to feel optional, including responsibility. But Jaden, that kind of freedom came early and hit all at once. And when you're growing up in the spotlight with no guardrails, every choice becomes a test. Every misstep turns into a headline, and every lesson has to be learned the hard way. Jaden wasn't just given choices. He was handed adult-level control without any of the grounding that comes with real adulthood. When things went sideways, there were no clear lines between what was okay and what crossed the line. There were just endless talks. But talk only goes so far when you're still trying to figure out who you are. The cracks showed most clearly in his education. Instead of staying in a traditional school with structure, teachers, and classmates, Jaden was pulled out completely. His learning became isolated, informal, and totally detached from normal life. Will and Jada believed schools were restrictive, even harmful, and Jaden took that belief and ran wild with it. He started posting online, blasting the school system, and calling it a trap. He said schools were designed to brainwash kids and that society would be smarter if everyone just dropped out. But those posts didn't sound like the voice of a kid simply questioning authority. They sounded like someone completely cut off from reality. The real issue wasn't curiosity, it was isolation. School isn't just about math tests and history books. It's about learning how to exist around people who don't think like you. It teaches you how to push back, how to fail, and how to find your place. Without that, Jaden was growing up in his own world where no one could really tell him no, And that kind of freedom can twist fast when you're still a teenager trying to make sense of everything.
I want to say Tyler, the Creator, is the best friend in the world, and I love him so much. And I want to tell you guys something. I want to tell you, Tyler doesn't want to say, but Tyler's my boyfriend, and he's been my boyfriend my whole life. Tyler, the Creator, is my boyfriend.
Jaden missed out on a lot of what most kids learn just by being around others, and it showed. Without classmates or friends to challenge him, his ideas went unchecked. Instead of being corrected, he was encouraged. Instead of being tested, he was praised. Over time, that built up confidence without any real grounding. He spoke with full certainty, even when what he said didn't quite add up. Public interviews made that disconnect crystal clear. Jaden would talk about time moving differently, about energy and deeper meaning, tossing around ideas that sounded spiritual or profound. But when people tried to follow, the logic just didn't hold together. It was like he was floating in his own reality, untouched by normal pushback. That lack of challenge didn't disappear when he grew up. It followed him into adulthood. When someone's never been told no, the first time they hear it, it feels like an attack. So when the public finally started criticizing him, it hit way harder than it should have. Instead of breaking down, though, Jaden turned that tension into expression. Fashion became his weapon and his shield. He started showing up in skirts, bold gender-fluid outfits, and styles that dared people to question him. Every look became a statement. If the world wouldn't understand him, he'd make sure it couldn't ignore him either. The moment Jaden stepped out in those bold outfits, it exploded into headlines overnight. Some people praised him for breaking barriers, while others mocked him without mercy. It turned into a full-blown culture war almost instantly. Even Will later admitted that this phase scared him. He said it was terrifying as a parent, but he chose to stay hands-off, letting Jaden figure it out on his own. But the real problem? The world didn't care about philosophy or self-expression. It only cared about the spectacle. And through all the noise, Jaden had to face the backlash completely alone. The same parents who once protected him from rules and structure didn't protect him from judgment. He was left to face millions of opinions, memes, and headlines without the emotional tools to process any of it.
I'm not going anywhere. The thing that people don't get is everything at his house is free. So I can get anything and everything that I want at his house. So I think I'm going to be there for 20, 30 more years. But he says as soon as I have a movie that's bigger than one of his movies.
Yeah, there ain't no reason to live in my house no more, but
What looked like total freedom from the outside often felt like quiet abandonment on the inside. And that tension wasn't just about fame or rebellion. The pressure inside the Smith family ran deep. It wasn't born from one single moment. It came from old wounds, trust issues, and scars that had never really healed. One of the heaviest shadows hanging over the Smith family has always been Tupac Shakur. Jada never hid how deep her bond with him ran. She's spoken about it openly for years, wearing that connection like a badge of honor. But that bond didn't just exist in its own world. It shaped the entire family dynamic in ways people didn't fully see. Will Smith even admitted that Tupac made him feel jealous and insecure. He said he could never compete with the intensity of that connection Jada had. That tension didn't just stay between the adults. It had ripple effects that reached the kids, whether anyone wanted to admit it or not. Kids notice energy. They pick up on emotions even when no one says a word. Then came a moment that made a lot of people uncomfortable, a story that resurfaced years later. It turned out that Willow Smith, while still very young, had written a letter to Tupac asking him to come back so her mom could be happy again. For the public, that hit hard. It wasn't just a cute childhood note. It hinted at how deep the family's emotional wounds ran, even in moments that were supposed to feel normal.
Around sometimes and I hang out with other people that are my age and they're just kind of young person. What bugs up? I'm just like, dude, like, oh my God, like, can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
In that letter, Willow wrote that her mother was sad and needed Tupac, that she wished he could come back to make Jada happy again. That message was never meant for the public, but once it leaked, it opened a flood of questions about what was really going on inside that family. Willow's own experience with fame only made things more complicated. She faced the kind of pressure most kids never even come close to. After her massive success with Whip My Hair, the spotlight got too bright too fast. She hit a breaking point, quitting the tour while still incredibly young and telling everyone she was done. That was her way of taking control when the industry wouldn't give her any breathing room. Meanwhile, as Jaden entered his mid-20s, the confusion around him stopped feeling like teenage rebellion. It started feeling heavy, like the weight of everything he'd been carrying since childhood was finally catching up. One of the clearest signs came during Paris Fashion Week, where Jaden showed up in outfits that nobody could ignore. In one look, his entire face was painted. In others, his clothes were styled in ways that almost dared people to feel uncomfortable. Even in the world of high fashion, where weird is normal, Jaden managed to push it further, making sure every move screamed, "You can't define me." Jaden definitely put effort into every look, but instead of getting the respect he might have hoped for, the internet mostly clowned him. People didn't try to understand the message behind the outfits. They turned it into a joke, comparing him to his dad and asking why he couldn't just be normal. That comparison never leaves him. Every single move Jaden makes gets lined up next to Will Smith's image, and deep down, he knows it.
I just didn't understand and just how deep-rooted they are in hip-hop as well.
Yeah, oh my gosh, man.
I'm looking at this picture right here of Tupac on the shirt right there, and Tupac asked to marry my mom.
Yeah.
And she was like, we're Pac, like we're best friends.
Right.
Like,
Then came an interview that caught everyone off guard. Jaden said something that stopped people cold. He said he hoped that one day future psychologists would study him. He said he wanted them to look back and figure out what was wrong with him. That moment hit different because it showed awareness. Jaden knows something feels off. He knows the public sees him as unstable, as someone who never fully found peace. But what really stood out wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Jaden didn't talk about healing or trying to fix anything. Instead, he spoke like someone watching his own story from a distance, like he already saw himself as a case study instead of a person. That says everything about how fame reshaped his mind. When you grow up with cameras tracking every move, you start to feel like a character instead of a human being. And somewhere along the line between the two disappears. In that same interview, Jaden dropped another truth that explained a lot about where his head's really at. He said most people who come up to him don't even want to talk about him. They just want to talk about his father. Not his music, not his ideas, not his projects, just Will Smith. He admitted that it makes it almost impossible to feel like his own person, and you could tell that frustration ran deep. From the outside, Jaden doesn't look lonely. He's rich, famous, and constantly surrounded by people. But real isolation isn't about being alone. It's about not being seen. It's about everyone knowing your name, but not who you are. That's the kind of loneliness that fame doesn't fix. It creates.
You ever jealous of the love Jada had for Tupac?
Oh my God, that dude, and you know, that was in the early days.
Jaden battles that every day. Every time he tries to step away from his father's shadow, the world drags him right back into it. If he acts out, he's trying too hard. If he dresses simple, people say he's wasting his privilege. No matter what he does, he can't win. And that endless comparison keeps him trapped in an image he never asked for. By this point, Jaden's story wasn't just about rebellion, it was about survival in plain sight. The more he tried to redefine himself, the more people twisted his every move into headlines. He started speaking less in interviews, keeping his thoughts close, almost like he'd learned the hard way that honesty only turns into clickbait. Behind the calm smile and cryptic posts, you can feel that mix of exhaustion and defiance, like he's tired of explaining himself but refuses to disappear. Fame gave him everything except peace, and no amount of art, fashion, or music seems to fill that missing space. And through it all, one thing keeps showing. Jaden isn't chasing attention anymore. He's chasing freedom. He wants to exist without being compared, without being judged through someone else's lens. But when your last name is Smith, walking away from the spotlight doesn't erase it. It just follows you in silence, waiting for your next move. As Jaden grew older, his relationship with the public turned into a quiet war. He stopped trying to please anyone and started using mystery as his shield. posting strange photos, speaking in riddles, and showing up just long enough to remind people he was still watching from a distance. Fans called it art. Critics called it confusion. But for Jaden, it was survival. It was the only way to stay in control of a story that never really belonged to him. Every now and then, glimpses of honesty slip through. In rare moments, he talks about pain, pressure, and wanting to feel real again, like fame drained the humanity out of him. Those moments don't go viral, though. People scroll past, still chasing the next shock instead of the truth hiding in his words. Deep down, it feels like Jaden's no longer trying to be understood. He's testing how far he can go before the world finally admits it never understood him at all. Now, when people talk about Jaden Smith, it's not just about his music or his movies. It's about what he represents. He's become a symbol of what happens when fame starts too young and never turns off. Every mistake, every experiment, every thought he shares gets dissected like a science project. And that constant judgment shapes him in ways the public will never truly grasp. But here's the thing, Jaden hasn't quit. He's still creating, still performing, still reinventing himself, even when people keep trying to pin him down. There's something raw about that, something almost tragic, because you can tell he's fighting to stay human in a world that keeps treating him like a storyline instead of a soul.
Group. I'm the only polyamorous person, and I have the least out of all of my friends.
Maybe that's the real twist in his journey. Jaden isn't chasing perfection anymore. He's chasing peace. And in the noise of Hollywood, that might be the hardest thing of all to find. In recent years, Jaden's silence has started to speak louder than his words ever did. He doesn't post as much, doesn't try to explain himself, and that quietness has people wondering, did he finally step back for peace, or did the spotlight wear him down completely? Every now and then, he'll drop a verse or appear at an event, and the internet lights up again, guessing what message he's trying to send this time. You could feel that he's grown colder toward fame, more guarded, more selective. It's like he finally realized that not everyone deserves access to his truth. The kid who once shouted his emotions into the mic now moves like someone who's learned the price of being seen too early. Whether you think he's misunderstood or just mysterious, one thing's clear, Jaden Smith's story isn't over. It's just shifting into something deeper, something quieter, something that feels more real than the fame that built him. If Jaden dresses wild, people say he's embarrassing his family. If he plays it safe, they call him boring. There's no winning lane left for him. At some point, his performances stopped feeling like rebellion and started looking like armor, protection from a world that keeps laughing no matter what he does. And if people are gonna laugh either way, you might as well control what they laugh at, right? That's exactly what Jaden seems to be doing now, turning judgment into his own performance piece. Every choice Will Smith made as a parent is written all over his son's life. What was supposed to be freedom turned into confusion, and the line between love and control got harder to see with every passing year. This isn't a story about a spoiled celebrity kid or attention-seeking fame. It's about the cost of raising a child in a spotlight that never dims. So, what do you think? Did Jaden truly lose his way, or was he simply given too much freedom before he was ready for it? And did Will Smith shape his son's world or slowly lose control of it? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, share, and let's keep the conversation going in the comments.